NWI. What's up with that sound? Hello, good afternoon, buenas tardes. ¿Cómo están todos ustedes aquí? Feliz viernes, feliz viernes. And before I go any further, I just want to give a shout out to security over there at the Metro. Gary Metro, thank you for buying me some Cheetos. I didn't have enough change, and the machine only took dollars.
Well, you didn't eat lunch Eve?
Actually, I did not today. I fasted, which is all good.
Okay.
It's worth it. People are worth us fasting. Anyway, buenas tardes. The views expressed by the hosts and the callers of this show are not necessarily the views of WLTH radio management, owners and sponsors, and advertisers. And I am just so excited. What am I so excited about, Juanito? What do you think I'm excited about?
That you got, what was it, Cheetos or Cheetos?
I got Cheetos.
I know it's a rarity for you, so we're happy.
No. I'm just so excited because we're going to have a full house tonight.
Very good.
We have some legal things going on today. And of course, the first part of our show is paid for by the group that is supporting the candidate that's running up for the East Chicago City Court, which is Attorney Renee Ortega. And you have something to say, Juanito?
Yes, because Nuestra Comunidad NWI does not endorse or support any
kind of... paid, and that's why we do the disclaimer.
Well, we do have to say that, though. We do have to say that, though.
Juanito's just
Nuestra Comunidad NWI does not support any elected or appointed candidate for office, but we are here and open for any candidate that wants to promote their candidacy on Nuestra Comunidad.
Anybody, welcome. In other words, don't get your feelings hurt. Right? So we're going to get right to it. I just want to also I did tell my sister, shout out to my people out in Houston, Texas. I said I was going to wish Sandy a happy birthday. I haven't seen Sandy since the 1996, 97, somewhere around there. So Sandy, happy birthday. Much love to you. And anybody else that's having a birthday, happy birthday to you guys. So we're going to get going right now because we are, short of schedule, and we're on a time schedule, being that we have a paid portion of our program. So without further ado, we have also our attorney from Crown Point. Actually, that's where your office is, right?
Yes. Well, I have an office in Crown Point. I'm a juvenile public defender, so I do have an office there too, and I work at legal aid
so we need to talk off the air. So this is none other than Attorney Renee Ortega. Buenas tardes, bienvenida.
Thank you. Buenas tardes to everybody who's listening. Good afternoon, good early evening, I guess. Thank you guys for allowing me to come on your show and kind of talk a little bit about my candidacy and running for city court judge.
Yeah. Well, first of all, tell us, who is Renee Ortega?
Well,
¿De dónde eres? ¿De dónde vienes? Tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you. I am currently living in East Chicago. I have been an attorney for the past 11 years. I specialize, mainly focus my practice in family law, juvenile law, criminal misdemeanor work, and appellate law. So, if there's things that you don't like that happened with your case, sometimes we can do an appeal and see if that can be changed. But mainly that is the work that I do. Like I said, I'm a current juvenile public defender. And so I do a lot of work with low-income indigent clients. So that is a lot of the work a lot of the clients that I do deal with. My father is actually an immigrant. He came here from Colombia when he was 17. He didn't speak any English, and so his family, they, immigrated here, and he's been here ever since. And so, that's a little bit about me.
Ahora en español, por favor, porque tenemos también nuestra habla hispana de la comunidad aquí y de otros lugares también.
Okay, I cannot promise it's going to be great because okay. I'm a little nervous.
Don't be, we're just talking to us, that's all.
Okay, practicar en legales con familias, con los juventudes, y vive en Chicago. Mi padre es de Colombia y vive aquí cuando él fue 17 años. Okay. Y él es de Colombia y practica yo practicando con un abogado por 11 años y es un poco de mi... Lo siento.
No, está bien. That's good. Kudos. We got to try it. We got to keep practicing it. If we don't practice it, we don't use it, we lose it. So thank you.
I do speak better in Spanish than
when you're
that.
not nervous. When you're not nervous. So that's fine. Muchas gracias. Como ya escucharon aquí a la abogada René Ortega, está corriendo para jueza de la Corte de East Chicago, de la ciudad. Juan, you trying to correct me?
You said jueza.
Yes, juez. Juez is judge, but that's male. When you speak in Spanish, we got to go male or female. So,
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, but go ahead. Go ahead.
No? Steve, no jueza? ¿Es juez? Pues yo le voy a decir jueza.
That's how my signs are going to be
stand corrected.
I stand corrected.
So they are going to
I am so happy. I'm so happy que el juez acá Juan knew better. Woo-hoo. Anyway, we don't want to take up Renee's time. So anyway, what got you to emphasize on what field to practice?
Well, a lot of it is who I started off working with in the beginning of my career. So when I was in law school, I clerked for Gary Weiss. He was an attorney in Maryville who was a big criminal attorney. And there was also personal injury. So I actually started off doing, personal injury, some civil matters, and then working with him on a lot of criminal issues. And he was he was also a public defender. So he was very big in representing, people with criminal matters, doing a lot of misdemeanor. He was, like I said, a public defender. And so he had a passion for that. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2008. So after that, I went and worked with another attorney who was also a felony public defender, and she also did family law. So a lot of the work experience that I got was working with her. Her name was Teresa Hollinsworth, and so I worked with her and kind of learned family law, learned criminal law, and that's kind of where I went from there.
And so I'm gonna ask, what has been the toughest case that you've had to defend?
Actually, what has been probably, I would say, some of the tougher cases have probably been my work as a juvenile PD, just, dealing with the children in need of service cases. Those are difficult. It's a lot of families who are in distress, who are, going through a really hard time. Doing divorces, families are going through a hard time too, but, with the children in need of services, you've got kids who are being taken away from their parents, parents who are stressed out, people who are upset, a lot of families in crisis. So I would say probably dealing with those situations, those are some of the more difficult cases that I do work on. I try and, do the best I can for them. And hopefully we can get the situation resolved quickly, and get the families put back together in a place where, they can have their kids back and continue forward successfully.
And I think that's where I met you, in the juvenile court.
Yeah, I'm there a lot.
Attorney, you are a lot there. I'm like, wait, when I looked at your picture, I'm like, she looks so familiar.
Yeah.
So now moving fast forward, what got you to, like, the light bulb hit or saying, hey, I think I want to run for judge?
Well, I have been looking for ways that I can help out, the community, that I can grow as an attorney. And I felt like running for judge would just be a natural evolution in my career. It's something that I'm interested in. It's something that I think that I would be good at. And it would be a way that I can help the community through my legal knowledge and expertise, and apply that by being city court judge of East Chicago. So I think that I would do a good job. I think that I would be fair, impartial. I know the law. I would apply it in the cases. And I think that, sometimes change is good, change things up, get a different perspective. So that's what I'm interested in doing.
So, do you have any questions for her, Juanito?
Well, you know what? I got to meet you at a Super Bowl party at St. Pat's.
Yes.
It's the first time I've ever met you. And I do work for the courts. I work for Lake County Court Division 2. I'm a probation officer. And so when you mentioned Gary Weiss, I think we were with him or something the day before he actually got killed. And I think it was in a car accident.
Yes.
And like I said, I guess, told me you graduated with our public defender that just passed away, Mr. Nick Pacific. Mm-hmm. So my question is, have you ever had any cases where you went before the current judge in East Chicago City Court?
Actually, I have.
Okay.
I have been out in East Chicago. I have done cases out there. I've done cases in, some of the other misdemeanor courts too, some of the other city courts. So yeah, I've been out there. I've been to a lot of the other city courts. And Yeah, I've been there.
And what, I mean, you probably just talked about it a little bit about it right now, but what if you were, like I said, let's say you get to be the next city court judge in the city of East Chicago, what would be one of the initial things you would be doing um, as far as any changes as a result of your campaign that needs to be done in the East Chicago City Court?
Well, one of the things that I was hoping to be able to do, and obviously it wouldn't be anything that until if I, do win, that would be implemented. But I was hoping to see about bringing over a lot of the landlord tenant cases
Mhm.
that are currently being filed in Hammond City Court. Hopefully, our court could be a place where those cases could get filed. Now, there's a lot of things that would have to happen before that could be done. But with Hammond City Court closing at
Mhm.
the end of 2019, Whiting City Court is also closing.
Already?
That leaves a gap.
Okay.
That leaves a gap in having a city court in the north of the county for people in the northern county to go to. And so, I'm big on people having access to the courts as much as possible. And with Hammond and East Chicago, sometimes people don't have the transportation to get all the way out to South County or some of the other courts, and having them to be able to have access to a court that's right, smack dab in their city, not only for East Chicago, but also for
Can I follow up on what you just said? Like in our court, we have Judge Moss, who was our criminal court judge.
Mhm.
She appointed Magistrate Beljeski who is in charge of the small claims cases, which would be cases that you just talked about. Would that be the same then if you were able to get those other cases from those closing courts to the East Chicago City Court? Would that require you appointing or hiring a magistrate for your court to deal with those cases? Or would you, as the new city court judge, be hearing those cases?
Well, I know the city court right now the East Chicago City Court right now does have a referee. So
Oh,
there's a
okay.
judge and a referee.
Sure.
So once, if and when we can get those cases brought over, which is obviously going to require working with the city clerk and taking a look at the budget and seeing, what exactly needs to get done. The city clerk, because there's a lot of landlord tenant cases. I mean, some weeks over at Hammond City, they're filing, 80 cases a day over there. So that's a huge amount of cases. But so it would require a lot of work with the city clerk and figuring out what exactly would need to happen for that. But with having a referee and myself, I mean, I don't see why there would be any need
Sure.
to have
Okay.
anybody else. I mean, obviously, or, another judicial officer. I mean, I would think that we should be able to handle it. But of course, you have to look at everything and see what needs to get done when and if that happens.
I'm a lifelong resident of East Chicago, Indiana. I'm up there in age. And you know what? I love my city. I love my city and everything. It does have its issues. Let me say this here. As a judge, I know there's a lot of things that they can and can't do in the community and so forth. Have you been? Are you involved with any organizations right now that you can talk about that would you would be very proud to say I'm part of this organization and we've done a lot in the community? Have you been involved with any non-for-profit at some point?
Well, I currently work for a non-for-profit,
Oh, do you?
but it's not in East Chicago.
Okay.
But it's legal aid.
Okay.
So I
That's great.
do
That's great.
currently work for a non-for-profit right now, and so basically through legal aid, we if you qualify, it's the federal poverty guidelines. And it's a case that we don't do any criminal cases because criminal clients have access to public defenders, so we don't do any of those types of cases. But if you do qualify, then you do get the free legal services. And so, I do work for legal aid. I am looking for more things to be active in,
Yes.
which is why, one of the things that I'm doing right now is the Leadership Development Academy through the state bar, which kind of gives us ideas and classes as to how to be more involved in your communities. And so running for judge is one of the ways that I'm trying to be more involved. I'm open to participating in other events and committees. Right now, I'm part of the Lake County Executive Board for the Lake County Bar Association.
Mhm.
I'm a member of the Women's Bar for Northwest Indiana. I'm a member of the Hispanic Bar for
Okay.
Northwest Indiana. So, through those organizations, we try to be more involved in the community. But that's one of the things that I am trying to do is, look for ways that I can get involved with and be part of the community.
As you having you said your dad was a migrant?
Mhm.
Okay, and so was my dad, and kudos to them. Um, as a judge, I don't know. I have heard, and I'm just going to be bold in saying it. I have heard where there's judges that kind of look down when there is an undocumented family or child that comes through the courts. As a judge, how would you feel when that happens coming through your courts? That there's a case that happens to be a situation.
Well, the way I look at it is, every case that would come before me, every judge obviously has their own personal experiences.
Mhm.
But the way I feel is that when you do get on the bench, you have to try as best as possible to put those aside, look at each case individually, and basically apply what the law is. So, in those types of situations, my hope would be that, whether you're undocumented or not, I'm going to look at your case the same way that I would look at anybody else's
So
case.
you're weighed in as the same, whether they had documents or not.
Well, right, because it's what's the law in regards to this situation. So, and I obviously can't specifically say, okay, in this case I do this, in that case I do
Right,
that.
right.
But my feeling is that everybody, you expect your judge to be impartial. And that's something that I really, want to do. I feel like I can do that. And so, the best I can say is that, every case is a case that I will look at the facts, what is the law in this situation, and apply that law to the case.
Right. And as you know, there are judges. They're all have personal issues and they make it professional issues. They're personal issues. They become biased. And because they know that, and the reason why I'm bringing this up, Renee, because it's so big in East Chicago.
Mm.
That's why I'm asking. There's a lot of racial profiling in the entire county, as I know firsthand. So I'd like the listeners to know your thoughts on that as a judge, because it's important for us community people and residents that are living in East Chicago or any court cases that come through East Chicago City, how a judge would handle that. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have Sonia Morris to ask her here right now, so I'm asking you because you are running for that seat.
Right. And as an attorney, my clients are my clients regardless of their status. And so my job as an attorney is to, do what I can with the case at hand. And so regardless of if they're documented or undocumented, in a Chin's case, the end result is to get them their kids back, as quick as possible or with the services in place so they can have their kids back. So I feel like as judge, my job is not to judge the status of
Good.
your
That's good.
residency. My job is to, look at the case, decide based on what the laws say in regards to, if it's driving while suspended or an OWI. My job is to say, okay, what is the law in this situation? What are the possible fines and
Right.
penalties? And hear from the state, hear from the defendant those arguments, and then rule accordingly. So that's kind of how I would view it.
That's good. I'm glad that you're seeing it that way because I often see it the other way. So it's important for me to know, being not just a media, but as an interpreter. I know that I'm not to speak of personal cases that I've interpreted for, but just as a whole, being a social activist or a person that's going to advocate for people, it's important to know how is that judge or judges will take each case into effect as if there's no documents or there is, because I hear it. That's a question that comes up. Are you a resident? You're legal or what? Go ahead, Juan.
I don't know how long ago you started your campaign for your position that you're running for right now, but what kind of feedback have you gotten from the community in East Chicago in terms of your campaign?
So far, the feedback that I've gotten has been, I think, positive.
Mhm.
Obviously, we won't know 100% for sure until May 7th. But I do have a lot of things planned going forward. I'm looking to start going door to door when the weather stops being insane.
Mhm.
So we're gonna, get out in the community. I'm looking to do more community events like the fish fries at the churches, and kind of, like I said, meet people, kind of get my name and my face out there. Listen to what people have to say, take it all into consideration. But yeah, I'm looking to kind of just meet the community of East Chicago and get involved and just kind of put myself out there, and hopefully everything will remain positive and it'll be a good outcome on May 7th.
One other question: the judges that I work for I work for one judge in Crown Point, but those are full-time judge positions. Is the city court judge in East Chicago? I guess the same thing would probably apply for Gary, Hammond, and so forth. Although there's not going to be a Hammond City Court, like you said, at the end of the year. Is the is the East Chicago City Court a full-time position, or is it a part-time where for example, in Judge Morris's case, and if, like I said, you are the next city judge, is it a part-time or is it a full-time? And if it's a part-time, can you still practice law while sitting as a city judge?
Yeah, it's a part-time
So,
position.
okay.
Yeah, just like all the other city or town courts.
Mhm.
And I am still able to practice. I just cannot practice in the same type of field that those cases that I'm hearing. So I
Mhm.
wouldn't be able to do misdemeanor work anymore, or maybe some landlord-tenant issues if we're hearing those types of cases. So juvenile things, family law matters, I could still do those because we're not hearing those cases in East Chicago City Court. So I can still practice, just can't do what the cases that I would hear.
Prevention-wise, personally, I think there's a lot that can be done to in terms of people are human, people make mistakes, and that's why we have courts and so forth. But I've been in my position since 1991, and we have what I call our frequent flyers that keep coming through. They just don't get it. They're 40 years old, they're 50 years old, and I deal with adults, 60-year-old, but they may be that in age, but when it comes to, they keep coming through, they just don't get it. So is there something that maybe comes to your mind, or maybe you've done something in the past that, you know what, if we just put this in practice, we will cut down on the number of people that go before the East Chicago City Court or any other court in terms of prevention? Is there something that comes to your mind, or something that you've done in the past that will prevent or help lessen the number of people that commit crimes, for example, in the city of East Chicago?
Ooh,
Good
that is
question.
that is a big question.
That is a big
Long-winded one,
question.
right?
As an attorney, obviously I have clients who have substance abuse issues, who
Mhm.
have, a lot of the, like you said, repeat kind of same types of things. And I think that it's a big question. I think it's a combination of
Mhm.
things that would work for people. I think it's, attorneys, and the state working together to come up with, if they're going to do a plea agreement, something that, is designed to kind of help, and make it so that hopefully we don't have the same thing coming around the neck. If you're coming forward with a driving while suspended,
Mhm.
well, is there something that we can do to make it so that you can get your license? What's going on? What's the issue that you can't get your license? And if at all possible, try and fix the situation so that they're not coming back again. I mean, sometimes, you can't fix the situation and it is what it is.
You know what?
Um,
Do you actually have a flyer or anything like that
you know
as
what?
part of your campaign?
I don't have any yet,
Yet, okay.
but I am going to be getting some together, but I just don't have any yet. It's in the
Okay.
process.
What else is part of your platform that you can talk about
Yes.
instead of me us asking you a question?
Take
What do you want to
advantage of
promote?
what you
Right.
have
So
left in
what is
time,
on your
please.
agenda? What is
Yes.
on your platform that we haven't talked about that you can
Right.
take the time to promote your candidacy? Because that's what this is all
Exactly.
about right here and right now.
Sell yourself, girl. No, as you would say.
No, I just hope that the people of East Chicago see that, my running is about trying to help the community, doing what I can to support the community, giving my service and expertise as judge. I think that I can do a good job. I think that I will be fair and impartial. And, getting cases out to East Chicago. So those landlord tenant cases, making East Chicago, the city court, an access place so
Mhm.
that people who maybe don't have a car or can't get a ride, it's right in our backyard,
Mhm.
and so equal access to the court for everyone is very important to me because I do deal with a lot of indigent and low income clients. So I know how difficult it is sometimes to get to court, and so that is very important to me. And I think the understanding, that understanding the population of where we live. Like I said, I get that sometimes it's hard to come to court. Sometimes you can't get a ride. Sometimes your car broke down. Sometimes you have to work because if you don't work, you might not be able to pay your rent that next day. So
Right,
I think, sometimes you have to keep all of that in mind, and know your population. And so all of that is something that, I would bring as judge of East Chicago City Court. So hopefully, if you're listening, vote May 7th for me.
Someone would ask, why you and not your opponent?
You know, why me? I think the answer that I would say to that is that, sometimes change is good. Um, you know, Things can't always stay the same. And sometimes having a fresh face, taking a new look at things can bring about positivity. Not all change is bad.
Right.
And so I would say that, let's switch it up, see what happens. And I think people would be happy.
Okay. Any other questions you have over there?
As the, let's say, the next city court judge in the city of East Chicago, what would you expect out of the people that work under you in the East Chicago City Court? What would you expect out of your employees?
That's a good question.
Well, what I expect out of my employees is pretty much the same thing I expect out of myself.
Okay.
I work hard. I expect, hard workers. I expect people to be on time. Let's be efficient. Um, and, when it's time to work, let's work. There's time to work and time to, go home and relax. But when we're at work, I like to get things done. I like to be efficient. I don't like to waste time or money. So,
That's good.
the types of things that I'm looking for are just, when we're at work, let's do the job that needs to get done and let's do it efficiently and correctly.
One question I do have pertaining to the police story versus the defendant. There have been cases where I would hear people in the community saying, why even bother to press any charges or go forward when I know that they're going to listen to the police, is their word against mine, and so why even bother? Do you see that that could be a problem? Because I personally have seen it where a judge takes the side of the police officer, not of the Latino, Hispanic, Spanish speaking person.
Well, the only thing that I can say is that always get an attorney if you can.
Right. It's very recommendable.
But like I said, one of the big things for me is, remaining impartial. So, when it's your time to have a case heard, everybody has a chance to give their side of the story. As a judicial officer, we're not supposed to prejudge cases. So, it's not supposed to be coming in with, mindset of, okay, I've already read the file and I'm already believing one side. So my hope is that what I can bring is just that impartiality that, okay, you say what you have to say. Don't be afraid to say what you have to say, and both sides will have a chance to say their side of the story. And then we go from there.
And that's good to know. For those of you that are just joining in, we're listening to Nuestra Comunidad Indiana here with my co-host Juan and, of course, myself, Eve Gomez. We have special guests today. This part of the first part of the program is actually a paid program by, of course, our candidate that's running for East Chicago City Court. And so you've heard some of her stories. Not sure if you've actually tried calling at 219-885-1371, but she is staying for the remaining of the show because we're bringing Rock Group, legal group, and that's ROK, not The Rock as in The Rock, like the actor of The Rock, but it's ROK legal group, and it'll be coming up in just a few minutes. Juan, any last second question for our candidate here?
Well, I don't know, but what would you do on the first day after being elected, on the first day of your job?
Okay, so January 1st, 2020, if that is a Monday or something. Probably the first thing that I would do would come in, gather all the employees, kind of sit down, have a chat, kind of my expectations going forward, and then kind of just hit the ground running, taking a look at what needs to get done, talking to the city clerk about getting those cases brought over if that's not something that we had already talked about, but just diving right in.
Let me just ask you, this is pretty much a yes or no question. Have you taken the opportunity to take a look at how many people work for the East Chicago City Court? What is the budget for the East Chicago City Court, and anything and everything that has to do with the East Chicago City Court? That pretty much is just a yes or no question. That's all.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Very good. Very
Did
good.
you know he's an East Chicago resident?
Yes.
Yes.
Long time.
And I love my city. Do you love your city?
Does.
You know what? Actually, I do love East Chicago.
Okay.
I don't like trains.
Hey, I feel you. Hammond same.
But everything else, I have no problems. I like the stuff that the mayor has been doing. And things are looking nicer. Some abandoned buildings are being taken down. So, it's just making the city a nicer place that I think is more inviting for businesses, which helps everybody. But yeah, I like East Chicago, except for the trains. Maybe go somewhere else.
Well, you got 1 minute left. Anything else you want to say that we have yet to ask that you feel that our listeners, our East Chicago residents, need to know about you?
The only thing that I can say is that, I'm willing to put in the hard work to continue to make East Chicago a great place to live, to do what I can to help the city. And so, give me a chance and vote for me on May 7th.
Website, email, telephone number,
Yes.
anything, contact information you want to give out to the public.
Your pages, where are you? Where are you?
You can
socially?
Contact me 219-661-7703. That's my office number. And you could probably, if that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. My email is Renee, renee.roklegalgroup@gmail.com. So if you wanted to get in touch with me that way, you could email me. I usually always have my phone.
Okay. And of course, you'll be bringing up a social media page. So, everybody's on the social media venue. So as you see, we're always live, and that seems to be a way to get people closer and get to know what you're doing.
Yep. Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
No más preguntas?
No? Thank you.
We can bring Larry back over here. This is Nuestra Comunidad NWI here on WLTH Radio, the region's choice and the people's voice, AM 1370 and 92.7. We welcome you to continue to listen and watch, learn, as I always say, watch, learn, and grow. Education is important. Educate yourself about politics. Educate yourself about why is it so important for you to vote. Tu voto es tu voz. ¿Verdad que sí, Juanito?
Sí.
Yeah, we could go for a quick commercial song. We'll be right back. We have the rest of the legal group to come on in and join us. And we're going to talk more about law, family law. I'm so interested in wanting to know about that. So we'll be right back.
Okay, so.
Listeners, that many accidents are
Okay.
a result of drivers.
You okay?
I'm a little sweaty.
Steve over there trying to make me laugh.
Cell phone.
We are still live on social media, but I'm going to cut that one part out, and then we're coming back. So guys, stay tuned for another part of the show. I guess I'm going to keep it running for this one because they are a team. They are the Rock Legal Group. Coming up. So come on, attorneys. Come on, Paul. Come on, Stephen. Did you guys have any questions here on Facebook, guys? I'm coming back and forth and checking to see if you guys have any questions. I hope you guys like the first part of this show. And now it's
Are you part of the show?
Yeah.
Oh, can you move over closer to the center so we can?
She definitely
can,
I'm a little sweaty.
You might have to share the mic with Eve.
No, that's fine.
And then, well,
So always working to keep our community moving.
The Spanish portion shows
And everyone at the Jets.
Juan,
you might have to squeeze it in.
Juan, you and I are going to share mics, so we have to.
¿Dónde está el baño?
Very good.
No, it was like I don't even remember how to speak Spanish.
You are funny. And then Stephen wants to know how he's making me laugh, and I'm trying to not smile on camera.
No credit check. You need not go to others for finance. We got a large.
You thirsty, Juan?
I want to be like I promised. I do speak Spanish.
Okay, you guys know you're live, right? So I'm just gonna put the camera on you guys. We don't need to be on.
Yeah, she's on it 24/7 anyway, so.
That's what speakers do. We are on the line.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't invite people.
Unless we should have Renee in the middle.
What happened to
I know.
the?
No,
Why don't you
the
in
O,
middle?
the O can
Yeah.
be
You should
right
be in the
here.
middle. Yeah.
Do I really have to be in the
Yes.
middle?
I want to take some pictures.
God.
Switch it up. Don't you think?
Switch it up. Move on over. Leave the girl in the middle. She's like, no, I don't need to be on. Is that your significant other? Your half? The other
That's my
whole?
fiance, yeah.
Your other whole. She's not half.
Yeah.
She's whole. She's complete.
That's right. That's right.
She don't need you. She just loves you. No. Well, congratulations, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just make sure you adjust the volume. They're sharing a mic, all right, Larry? So we don't.
Are we sharing that one?
No, I think you're doing that one.
You're doing that one. You guys are sharing. You want to raise that one up a little bit more? The whole thing. This.
Pull it out.
Pull it out. Closer. There you go.
No.
In the middle, in between, and he'll adjust the volume. There you go.
Don't know.
I could yours, I'd say.
Don't start.
I gotta keep you guys notice that we are live.
Oh, we're still live.
We're live on social media. Let us know when you're ready, Larry.
We can help you with no money down purchases, renovation loans.
Yeah, she was leaving her hand marks.
That's Residential Premier Real Estate.
El agua de ellos, Juanito.
333.
You took it away from the table.
That's
I had 5 of them here.
8816.
I have all of their water here. What'd you do? There, you put them over there, Juan. Hi, Juanito. What am I going to do with you, man? All right, guys. Hello to my Facebookers. Say hello to my attorneys over here. Wave and say goodbye. Hello. Arrivederci. Juan. Hola, ¿cómo están? Say goodbye. Not yet. Not yet. You got their water? He needs his water right there. And to her. Yeah, there's more. Would you like a water over there, young lady? Okay. You're right in front of the. Sorry, guys. We didn't need to have his back on you.
$15 in advance, $20 at the door.
We're just having fun on during commercials.
Hot talk, hot news, hot stuff.
Hot right here.
It all went out of my head. Like,
Yes.
number three.
Lots of
Yeah, I want to
hotness.
see how you do. We'll see how you do. I can't wait. Oh, okay.
That's you? Oh. Okay.
AM 1370. Tune in every Saturday from 8 to 12 midnight as we give you follows the best way.
No, we're coming right back on, right?
So come right back on.
Yeah.
Brothers of the Blues Show.
That's fine.
I'm Dr. James, the Prime Minister of Blues.
All right, welcome back to Nuestra Comunidad Noreste-Indiana, aquí en español y en inglés, AM 1370. Bienvenidos. Tenemos aquí un grupo legal que se llama ROCK Legal Group. Son abogados. You know, sometimes from time to time, we need an attorney. And so my buddy, my friend, I do want to call him my friend, Steven Rodriguez. I am not biased. I am not picking and choosing. I just know the people that I worked with for years, and I solely appreciate, and I want to appreciate him publicly, thanking him for all the help that he does in the community and for our people. I do mean it. So if you need an attorney,
Thank you for having us.
pointing to Steven. Buenas tardes. Welcome again now to Paul, again
thank
to
you.
Miss Renee, and to Steven.
Appreciate you guys having us.
Yeah, we've been
Figured it
like
out.
long time trying to plan this out, but I'm glad you finally got here. So, Steven, we're going to start with you. Tell us who you are and what you're all about and where you're from.
My name is Steven Rodriguez, and I was born in East Chicago, but then moved to Maryville, probably in early elementary school.
Sure.
I've practiced it'll be 21 years this June. I was the managing attorney at another legal aid office, Indiana Legal Services, for almost 18 years. And then I went in private practice part-time in 2006. And just August 1st of 2000, August 1st of 2000, was it 17? We started a firm who I have with my two partners here. It's Rodriguez, Ortega, and Kostesky. So we've been together. It'll be 2 years this August.
Now, what I'm going to ask you, you are so soft-spoken, and I know you can talk a little louder. So if you can talk a little louder, because we got some Facebookers also trying to hear what
Sure.
you're saying. But So how long you been with the Rock Legal Group? Because I know you were also with the legal services.
Yeah, I was. We created our firm officially. We went live August 1st of 2017. But I've been practicing. It'll be 21 years this June 5th of 2019.
You're that young?
I don't feel that young, but I've been practicing that
I'm
long.
being sarcastic. Young. All right, and for you guys already watched and heard, you have Renee. Renee, what part do you take here? What family? What law are you practicing within the group?
So like Steve, I do family law. I do the juvenile matters, so CHINS cases, child in need of services cases, juvenile delinquency matters. I also do appeals, and yeah, that's about my area that I usually work in. Like I said, I've been practicing about 11 years. I graduated from Valparaiso University School of Law, and we've been together since 2017. Yeah, it's been great.
Awesome. Great group. And Paul, tell us about you.
Sure. I am the freshest, I guess, attorney out of
Okay,
the
why
group.
you guys got afraid to get to the mics? Get
All right,
closer
let's
to
do
the
it.
mics, guys.
Let's do it.
All right.
Better?
Yes.
All right, good. Yeah, so I'm the freshest of the group, I would say. I graduated from law school in 2016. Prior to that, I had a career in human resources and worked at both Horseshoe Casino and Valparaiso University while I went to law school there as well. And actually, crazy story. We had known each other, Renee and I, actually since elementary school. And with Steven, I got to know him through Indiana Legal Services. So that's how I got to know Steven. He was the managing attorney there, brought me on as an intern, and that's how we knew each other. And then
We actually all went to Maryville High School.
yeah,
I was just about to ask, what school did you come out of?
yeah,
My rivals, 59 are here. No.
Oh.
Maryville, we're Maryville.
yeah.
So one of our listeners was asking to ask about immigration. Do you guys have anything to deal with that? I mean, that seems to be a big issue right now with immigration, with having undocumented people coming through and needing attorneys. I mean, where are you guys at with that type of law?
I wish we did. Unfortunately, I don't practice in the area of immigration. Hindsight's 2020. I know when I went to DePaul in Chicago, they had a great immigration clinic, and looking back, it's not the issue that it is now. I mean, it is taking off like wildfire with all the political issues and whatnot, especially with the influx of immigration. So, unfortunately, I don't do immigration, but when somebody would come to us, we have other resources where we can refer them to.
And what I do want to say is just because you're not here legally doesn't mean that you can't get divorced. It doesn't mean that you can't get custody of your children. So don't be afraid to go to court if there are certain situations where you feel like I need to go to court. You are able to avail yourself of the court services. I mean, a lot of our requirements for filing things are just that you're an Indiana resident. That means that you've lived in Indiana. It doesn't mean that you have to be a U.S. citizen, just a resident of Indiana. So, I know that there are a lot of people out there who are, worried that, oh, if I file something or if I come forward or if I ask to get divorced, what's going to happen? You're going to be able to get access to services just the same as everybody else. The court, I've never had it to where the court's like picked up the phone and been like, oh, you're illegal, I'm calling ICE. I've never had that situation. So don't be afraid to avail yourself of services if you need them, just because you're not legal.
And that's an important thing that I'm glad you brought it up, because some of our listeners may have family members that don't want to move forward because of that issue. We have our board operator has a question about something. Go ahead, Larry.
No, I just wanted to ask.
Yes.
Does anybody deal with discrimination as opposed to I meant discrimination.
No, I know what you meant. Yeah. Do you guys have any cases with discrimination?
In terms of like in employment or?
Just period. I mean, well, I'm sure there's a lot of different ways of discrimination, but if somebody had thought that they had a discrimination lawsuit, for example, that's something you guys would be going to do, but you direct to someone else.
So actually, I just mediated a case this morning that dealt with discrimination in an employment case, but outside of that, I'm not sure about my partners, but I don't have too much. I haven't done too much with discrimination cases.
A lot of those cases are sometimes federal, so those would be in federal courts. The majority of what we handle is usually state-wise. But again, we can always refer you to somebody who does it.
Now, I want to talk about something that is dear to my heart, that's very close, hits close to home. And I don't mean my home as in my residence, my family. When I say it hits close to home, is when families come to me in need of help. And it has to do with juvenile court, has to do with parenting time. It has to do with if there's any type of sexual molestation. I have had several cases. I have one right now as we speak. Where are you guys with that? How can you help someone that is trying to deal with parenting time, is trying to deal with custody? I mean, what do you look for in helping someone that has issues with that? Am I being too broad or
You're too broad.
not too broad? Okay, let me.
It's a loaded question, but
It is. It
the
is.
first thing is they should consult. If money were never an issue, and even if it is an issue, you should always at least consult with legal counsel, because just as we were talking about legal status, a lot of people don't know their rights. They
Exactly.
don't understand that when they sign a paternity affidavit that it's an establishment of paternity. But the first thing is to at least find out what your rights are and don't wait. As the more time that goes by, the more difficult it gets to get into the courts. But I think Renee and I could speak to the fact that when we are at legal services, when I was at legal services, and Renee's at legal aid, the hardest part is getting into court and also getting out of court. So the access to the courts is what they really need assistance with. So even if it's something that we can't help them with, at least we can send them in the right direction. But that is our specialty as far as parenting time. And it's just there's so many branches from a custody case that would be in their better interest to at least consult with someone who is experienced in that area rather than try to figure it out on their own.
Right, right. I think that that's best. And I'm glad that there's legal aid, legal services out there for those that can't afford an attorney because they're so expensive. Man, I'm telling you, no. I can unequivocally attest and witness that there has been attorneys out here that charge little to nothing to some of our family members out here. For some, not family members and my brother and sister, but when I say family members, people that have families and they have children and they really want to help them. They do go out of the limb to help you. I'm just telling you, not necessarily just Rock Group, legal group, but other attorneys as well. And so when you say family law, what does that consist of? Because not everybody knows what that is.
So basically, it has to do divorces, post-dissolution matters, so meaning that you're divorced, but you still are having issues with parenting time or child support. If you're not married and you have children, so those would be paternity cases. So, filing, how do you get child support if you haven't been married? Well, that would be a paternity case. How if you're having issues with parenting time and you're not married, that's a paternity case. Guardianships, so meaning guardianships of minors. It could be guardianships of adults, adoptions, grandparents' rights, grandparents' visitation, child in need of services cases, juvenile delinquency. So anything dealing with children and family would usually be family law related. And Paul, he does a lot with the workers' comp. So, if you're injured at work, on the job, he's the one that you see. I don't know too much about that. So that's Paul's area of expertise.
Sure. I was actually fortunate enough with my background in human resources. I saw it firsthand when I worked in HR to see what an employee goes through in the work environment. And then coming out of law school, I was fortunate enough to work with a friend of mine who pretty much gave me the start in the legal field. And we had an opportunity to work together in the workers' comp field. I did workers' comp defense with her. That was actually Kirsten Kaiser-Kus. So I'm grateful for that opportunity, and that helped me get started in the workers' comp area. So when we merged together and started our firm, started doing plaintiffs work for workers' compensation as well. So
So, okay, I know that we don't have a lot of time, and we're probably going to bring you back since we took us almost a year to schedule you guys to come on. You have any questions, Juanito, to the group?
I just want to reiterate, like I said, I work in the court, and the point that you made before, that when anyone has any case in a particular area, you need to find an attorney or a firm, whatever, that deals in those type of cases, because sometimes people hire attorneys that are not familiar with the cases that is pertinent to that client, and sometimes things may not develop as to what they were expecting out of the case. So, like anyone else, people have their experiences in certain types of law, and that's what you want to look at when you find something. So let me ask you this though, real quickly. And when someone comes to your firm for a possible hiring, is there a consultation fee that this firm hires or not?
I don't charge a consultation fee. I don't think that we do that. A lot of times when people call in, I'll talk to them on the phone, kind of get an idea of what it is. And then, if they want to talk more, I'll set up an appointment with them, bring them in, we can go over it. But sometimes people are fine just chatting on the phone about it.
Yes.
And then I can give them a basic overview of what my fees are, and then we can move forward from there. But I do find that, it's good to kind of just be able to talk with people, because it can be expensive. If I talk to you and you have to pay me a fee, and maybe we don't click, you don't really like what I'm saying, you want to go see somebody else, then you have to pay another fee to go talk to somebody else, and you still haven't paid anybody yet. So I don't have a problem talking to people, getting an idea of what their case is. And sometimes, people just want to get like a general idea. They're maybe not looking to go ahead and file for divorce right away. So sometimes it's good just to have that general knowledge.
And it's good because there are attorneys that do charge a consultation fee. Anything else that you guys cover? Because I want to, real quick, we have a few minutes left, talk about wills. Many people don't like to plan their death. It happens to everybody. That's something that's guaranteed. Life insurance, not life insurance, death and
Taxes.
Taxes.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Thank you, Juan. Wills. Why should there be a will prepared? I think that's right up your alley, Stephen.
Yes,
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you're really never too young to do a will. I think we had talked about that before we came here, and I was, you asked what's the right age to do a will. There really is no right age. I'm not gonna say how old I am, but I would say 10 years ago, my colleague at Legal Aid said, you should really get a will. Then I'm like, are you kidding me? She's like, no, you really should. But a will deals with the distribution of your assets after you reach your demise. So it's better for you to say who you want this to go to than having somebody else do it for you. So that's the benefit of having a will, is because you can actually show exactly where you want your money in your savings account to go to, or this special car that your grandson might have wanted, or what you want to do with your home. And it's better because it's, within the four corners of a document that shows your intent, what your wishes were before you had passed away, rather than trying to guess. Nothing's worse than having somebody pass away without a will.
Right.
When a sibling says, no, this is what dad or mom would have wanted.
Exactly.
You're guessing rather than having it in writing.
And I think it's more of a peace of mind. And I can think of right now 2 young ladies, 18 and a 16. Actually, one, they wrote a will, and the one 18 drowned, passed away. Well, she didn't drown. She would have been a vegetable. She actually said, I'm donating my organs. Another one, she was leaving what to do once she passed away, not knowing that they were going to pass away at a young age. So we have a few minutes left. Tell us where we're ready to cut. Tell us where we can find you. I know that you have your Facebook page, ROK Legal Group. Where else can we find you?
ROKLegalGroup.com. You can find us on Facebook, like you said. You come to the office, 250 North Main Street. We're in Crown Point, about a block before the square, right across from AutoZone.
And you have Spanish-speaking staff for my Spanish-speaking listeners?
We do.
Our secretary, Sandra, she speaks Spanish. Steve speaks Spanish. Contrary to my performance earlier, Spanish, I just get a little nervous.
Well, we will bring you back because we want to talk about some of the things that are more specific, not just family law, but juvenile law as well. And that's something else I'd like to get to talking about. And I thank you guys. Any last minute thing you want to say before we go?
No, it was a
Algo
pleasure.
más.
No,
¿Todo?
we just want to thank you for having us. We really appreciate it because we know that we reached out to you back in 1990.
You mean I reached out to you?
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, we thank you for joining us here on Nuestra Comunidad NWI, Indiana. That's our community on WLTH. Oh, okay. AM 1370, 92.7. And we got tomorrow's show at 10 o'clock. What we got
Tomorrow's the
going real quick?
continuation of our National Hispanic Political Roundtable that we started on Nuestra Comunidad Northwest Indiana, because real quickly, I love watching all these political talk shows on the English stations. And when they have their political roundtable, Hispanics are missing. So we created our own National Hispanic Political Roundtable. Tomorrow's only our second show, which will be leading into the 2022 presidential election. Tomorrow, thanks to Eve Gomez, we have Jose Javier Lopez, who is the vice president for the Midwest LULAC. So tomorrow we have Jose Javier Lopez, who is the vice president for LULAC. We are going to be talking about issues that are important to the Hispanic community nationwide, and we're going to have a lot more shows leading to the 2020 presidential election, and only on Nuestra Comunidad Northwest Indiana. Tune in 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock.
Yes, and tomorrow let's go to Celebrity Sing Off at the Glen Theater. I hope to see you guys there. I'll be there. I'll be the most spectacular person there singing tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at Glen Theater. Buy your tickets. They can sell them at the door, buy them at the door, wherever else you can find them, or inbox me. I have tickets as well. And thank you, Larry, for manning the board. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Larry.
Hasta la vista. Nos vemos hasta la próxima aquí en Nuestra Comunidad Noreste de Indiana. Have a wonderful evening.
You're listening to WLT Radio 1370.
We are good, except we're still on there. So we're still on. And we're still on there.
Best way we know how. And of course, that's to play it for you. The Brothers of the Blues Show. I'm Dr. J, the Tribe.
All right. And on that note, guys, I'll see you guys later. Thank you.
Robert, somebody burned down my she shed.
No one burned down your she shed, Cheryl.
Robert, the State Farm cover my she shed.
She turned our shed into her hideaway, Robert.
Thanks so much for
You're
having us.
welcome. Hasta la próxima. Nos vemos.
Can we stop?
Hasta mañana, hasta la mañana.
Sí.
Like Lord Jesus, we need to stop.